I came across this list from Kerrang Magazine called 50 of the Worst Album Covers Ever. I thought it would be fun to go through this list in this video and react to it because, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. First on the list here, we have Scorpions, Animal Magnetism. I remember seeing this cover in the record store as a kid and kind of trying to figure out what was going on here. And as an adult, I'm still not sure what is going on here. Black Flag, what the? Let's see what Kerrang wrote. They wrote, what better way to piss all over the visual legacy of your band's back catalog by smashing this out in 10 minutes using MS Paint. I mean, far from being the best album cover ever, but I've peeked ahead and I've seen some of the other examples of horrible album artwork, and as far as bad album artwork, this is not even the tip of the iceberg. What is going on here? I gotta blur a little bit of this out in order to pass the YouTube censors, but this is pretty crazy, man. This is like some bush party gone bad with fire and I don't know, hard to describe here, but yeah, I would say this album cover is not really great. My other comment is on some of these like black metal bands, death metal bands, underground metal bands, is the logos. Sometimes these logos are really hard to make out. This isn't the worst example of a logo. I can kind of make it out maybe, but I never understood that in terms of marketing and branding. This is the first thing a potential listener is going to see, and you'd think you'd want to get your band's name out there front and center. And a lot of metal bands or underground black metal bands aren't doing it. It seems to be an exercise in trying to make the most difficult to read logo. So from a branding perspective, I don't get that at all. Alice Cooper, Raise Your Fist and Yell. I kind of like this album cover. I've been a fan of this album for decades. It's not an album that's discussed very much, but this cover is not all that bad. It's certainly eye-catching, Raise Your Fist and Yell. It's funny because it's not really a fist, right? The hand is kind of doing this as opposed to this. It's like Alice's face right there. Yeah, it's cheesy, it's weird, but I kind of like this album cover. Okay, this band is called Blasmith. Blasmith? The album is called Fatherland. So a couple albums ago, I was talking about logos that are hard to read and the missed opportunity there, right? I'm coming at this from the perspective of marketing and branding and all that kind of stuff. So the album artwork here is not horrible. It's not great. It's not horrible, but looking at this, I would never know what band this is. And for the life of me, I can't get my head around why a band would do that. I don't understand, but maybe I'm not supposed to understand. I'm a metal fan, a traditional metal fan mostly, and I'm not a fan of this subgenre. And maybe that's why I don't get it. Okay, what's this one? Jack Starr's Burning Star, No Turning Back. You know, to me, this just reminds me of any of those guitar shredder records that came out in the 80s, particularly on Shrapnel Records. This, to me, is not horrible. Not great, but not horrible either. What is going on here? This looks like something a 5 or 6-year-old would have drawn in kindergarten class. How something like this made an album cover, I have no idea. Again, just thinking through the lens of marketing, I guess. If I was in a band, if anyone was in a band, wouldn't you think you'd want to put a cool image on your album cover? Something people would want to buy, and you could put it on a t-shirt or a poster, and people would be like, man, that album artwork is awesome. I gotta get the shirt, I want to get the poster to put on my wall. That kind of thing, right? Maiden, particularly in the 1980s, were masters of this with Eddie. Everyone wanted Eddie. It was on the album covers. People saw the image on the album cover. They bought the record, in some cases based on the imagery. Then they would go and buy all of the other merchandise. And this is not something, I don't think this is something anyone would really want to hang up, and definitely not something you would put on a piece of clothing. So again, I do think it's a missed opportunity. How do you say the name of this band? Dennett. The album is called Terrestrial Dying. Again, looking at the logo, unless you're a fan of the band, it's not immediately obvious what that logo says. It's difficult to read. But in terms of the artwork, I don't think it sucks or is bad. I mean, it looks like a spirit leaving a body, which suits the album's name, Terrestrial Dying. But again, I think the logo kind of messes this album cover up. Overkill, Under the Influence. Pretty well-known metal band, but this album cover doesn't do it for me. The record's called Under the Influence. You know, this guy, he looks like he's going into the sewers of a big city and he's encountering a skull with laser eyes and bat wings. What that has to do with the name of the album, Under the Influence, I don't understand at all. So yeah, this one's a hot mess. Speaking of Maiden, here we have Dance of Death. So I gotta say, if any other band had put this album cover out, I wouldn't say it was horrible, but just due to the fact that this is Maiden and they had so many iconic record covers and so much iconic artwork with Eddie over the years, particularly that Derek Riggs stuff, I'm going to say this is really bad for Maiden. I would give it like a 2.5 on 10. Be clear, if it's another band, I would probably give it a pass, but just for Maiden, standards are so high, and this one kind of sucks.
Channel 33, RPM.
Wolf. This album is called Wolf Wolf. What did Kerrang write? Is it a wolf or a mandrill? Why does it have vulture heads for fingers? No wonder it looks upset. This is a hard one to make out. Again, back to that whole thing, right? I would say if you're in a metal band, get some cool artwork there and sell the records, sell the merch, give people something they want. And this is not something I don't think anyone wants. Riot, Fire Down Under. Again, this is weird. Riot had this seal head as a mascot, and it's on multiple album covers. It's like a half seal. It's like a seal head on like a man's body or something, and it's a long-standing tradition with metal bands to have a mascot, but a seal is not very metal, man. Okay, what's this band called? Death Corpse. Spelled funny though. Death Corpse Metal. This album gets top points just for the ridiculousness of it. Alcatraz, No Parole from Rock and Roll. I get the idea here. Alcatraz was the rock, and here you have a rock with someone imprisoned in it, but this one is just bad. What's this band called? Mortis. The Stargate. I mean, this kind of speaks for itself. It's like an elf wearing an Alice Cooper pants and codpiece with Gene Simmons demon wings. Abruptum, Evil Genius. Again, this goes back to the whole thing I don't understand about black metal bands, and maybe you're not supposed to understand. Maybe that's just part of the whole genre or subgenre, right? Keep it underground, and part of keeping it underground is just one, ridiculous covers with logos you can't make out. I mean, if I saw that logo, I would never guess that says Abruptum. If you can read Abruptum in there, more power to you, man. Except Balls to the Wall. I remember getting this record as a kid. I got it when I was like 12 years old. And this album artwork I didn't get at all. I mean, it's a great album, great songs, awesome production, but I was stumped by this album cover, and I was like, what were these guys thinking? It's a dude wearing what appears to be a Speedo and leather while holding a ball in his hand with these really hairy legs. I mean, there's nothing cool about this, which is too bad, 'cause the album is fantastic. Anthrax, Fistful of Metal. You know, I've seen this album cover so many times in my life, maybe I've gotten used to it. I mean, that guy literally has a fistful of metal. Scott Ian, guitarist, co-songwriter of the stuff, was no fan of it. But again, maybe I've seen it so many times I've gotten used to it, but I don't mind this one. All right, let's stare at it. Let's analyze this one. I mean, at least the artwork doesn't look like it was done by a 5-year-old. But the colors, like the green, not very metal. The artwork, I mean, I guess you got the evil demons there, and the woman with the wings, and the warrior. Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction. I disagree with placing this one on a list of the worst album covers ever. I mean, I don't mind this one. It's moody. The dudes look kind of unimpressed, maybe a little pissed off. Black Sabbath, Born Again. This one is really controversial. A lot of people absolutely hate this album cover, including the band themselves. We talked about this album cover a few times on this channel before, and I don't mind it. If I recall correctly, this was a file footage of a baby, and then the artist just purposely made it horrible thinking Black Sabbath wouldn't go for this because he was working for Ozzy Osbourne at the same time, and the band surprisingly went for this. Depeche Mode used the same file photo in one of their album covers, but I don't hate it. Another Sabbath one, Paranoid. This is another album cover I've seen so many times that it doesn't register with me how horrible it is, but I guess it kind of is. This album was originally supposed to be called War Pigs, and that guy there was the War Pig, so I guess it would have made more sense in its original incarnation, but it still kind of makes sense, right? This guy's kind of paranoid, losing his mind, but for one of the world's most iconic metal bands, I guess it's not the best album cover. They probably could have done better, but I don't mind it. How do they say this name? Frenzel Rom. I'm going to have to totally blur this one out to get past the YouTube censors, and this is kind of gross. Earth Crisis. Firestorm. Yeah, I mean, I can make out the name of the band. The logo is clear enough. The name of the album is quite legible there. I mean, the album cover itself is boring, but it's not the worst album cover I've ever seen. I mean, is this any worse than, say, Tool's Undertow? I don't think so. Exodus, Bonded by Blood. Again, a cover I've seen a ton of times. Yeah, super cheesy. What did Kerrang say? We bet this pair are a right handful at nursery school. Mind you, that evil baby is ripped. He certainly is ripped. What the hell's going on there? Fate's Warning, Night on Brocken? Is that how you say it? I think this was their debut album. And again, yeah, okay, I'm kind of puzzled by this. What's going on? You got this guy in a cape and a hat with a stick that's on fire and a woman just kind of lying there. Why waste your real estate? If you're in a metal band, throw some awesome artwork on there. Make it artwork that's going to attract people to the album cover, and then they're going to want to buy the t-shirt and the poster and all that kind of stuff. To me, this looks or seems just like a wasted opportunity. Battle Axe, Burn This Town. The proportions seem off on this one or something, don't they? I mean, you got this metal guy sitting on a motorcycle, kind of looks like he's sinking into the motorcycle or part of the seat or something. The idea is okay, but the execution is poor. Rush, Hemispheres. How could this one make a list of the worst album covers? What a Kerrang right here. A suited gentleman goes for a stroll and is confronted by a nude man standing on a brain. I mean, I think this speaks to the yin and the yang and the two sides of people, the left brain and the right brain and the analytical and the creative. And yeah, I don't think this is one of the worst album covers of all time. Maniac Butcher. I dig the album name. It's like a bad horror movie, but I hate this album artwork. What's this? Immortal, Diabolical, Full Moon, Mysticism. Kerrang wrote, the most diabolical thing about this album cover is the fact the person breathing fire has tucked their shirt in like a total dad and total bad. NoFX, Heavy Petting Zoo. Yeah, there's all sorts of issues with this album cover. I'm gonna have to blur some stuff here to make it past the YouTube censors. I am just gonna move on. Pantera, Metal Magic. What was going on with these early Pantera records? All the pre-Cowboys from Hell stuff. This, to me, is one of the worst album covers ever. Kerrang makes a good point here. They're right. First things first, why is this cat-human hybrid wearing a belt? He's got no clothes on, but he's wearing his belt. How could Dimebag Darrell and the guys look at this album artwork and think, this is wicked, man. We got to put this on our album cover. Typo Negative, The Origin of the Feces. This, again, blurred. I'm going to move quickly past it. To me, this is one of the worst album covers of all time. Riot, Narita. Again, here is that seal guy with the human body. If there are any Riot fans out there, please explain the whole Riot mascot thing to me, because I just don't get it, man. Scorpions, Love Drive. They kicked off our list and we got some more Scorpions. I remember being a kid looking at this album cover in the record store. And I was going to say being fascinated by it. I don't know if that's the right word for it. I don't understand the whole message or meaning behind it necessarily. I don't hate it. Slayer, Show No Mercy. Again, to me, this is one of those iconic metal albums. And just it's totally Slayer to me. It brings back memories of seeing this album cover when I was a kid, being, I guess, slightly freaked out by it, maybe or maybe not. Stryper, Isaiah 53:5. I never understood Stryper's whole image, right? The whole yellow and black thing, the yellow and black attack, and this, they're being all badass on this like van with. Is that machine guns or is that guitars? It's hard for me to tell. What did Kerrang write? You've been waiting for the AA to arrive on a dark, cold night due to a clerical error. This lot rolls up disguised as military bees. Ted Nugent, Uncle Ted, Scream Dream. I would wake up screaming too if this guy appeared in my dreams. Some of these album covers, man, I can't tell if it's supposed to be a joke. I assume this one is. Boned, Up at the Crack. Is there, I swear I saw this artwork before, but it was related to like an AC/DC Bon Scott tribute kind of thing. I don't know. What's this one called? Van Laid? This strapping young man is so preoccupied with checking his testicle for lumps. He's only gone and forgotten his sword. Lucky his mermaid wife has come to the rescue. Mad, Taboo of the Western World. Weird. Gamma Ray, Sigh No More. Yeah. Postmortem, Message from the Dead. I kind of dig this one. This is kind of ridiculous. I mean, kind of fun too. I like the street address, 665. He's a neighbor of the beast. Exciter, Unveiling the Wicked. These Canadian speed metalers stress the importance of avoiding the use of cheap peel-off face masks with this 1986 album. I remember seeing this back in the day and thinking, like, what happened to this lady? It looks like she was an attractive woman, and for some reason her face is melting off. And what do we have here? Metal Massacre 6, various artists. I mean, is this cool? Is this artwork something someone would spend a lot of time on? Not really, but I think it really suited the whole Metal Massacre and the whole compilation thing. All right, 33ers, that's Kerrang's list of the top 50 worst album covers of all time. Thank you for watching. I'll be back again really soon. Until then, keep on spinning.